handbrake. What the fuck, that doesn't work. Ronnie's broken it again. All right guys, Ronnie's car, what are we gonna do to it? What has he broken? Well today, it's a little bit of maintenance, fuel filtration, factory fuel filter. We're gonna run you through hints and tips, how to change them, and what you need to keep an eye on. So let's jump straight into it. Okay, so we mentioned we're gonna change the factory fuel filter. That's this one on this side, in between or behind the factory battery and in front of the secondary battery, the dual battery kit. We're gonna cover off replacing the fuel filters, what you need to look out for, seals, tools, how to prime it, O-rings, clips, sensors, how to reset the sensors, all of the above. It's all gonna be covered off, so stay tuned and let's go through it step by step. So full disclosure, Ronnie never cleans this car before he brings it into us. But if you're exposing the fuel system, you want to make sure the area that you're opening up or working on is clean. Just clean and tidy and have the right tools laid out and the parts for the job. Check them before you start it because there's no point starting the job and realizing you don't have the right tools or the right parts. So let's just check them now and then clean this and get on with it. Items to change the fuel filter is pretty straightforward. We've got the factory Toyota fuel filter here. The aftermarket fuel filter, the secondary one or primary, like I mentioned before. We're running a 5 micron, some people run a 30 micron, our kits run a 5. Today we're fitting the 5. Now, tools, we said you need to clean the area you're gonna work in. I've got a bit of compressed air, parts cleaner or brake cleaner, safety glasses, gloves, there for the diesel or chemicals if that suits you. Bottle to bleed the diesel into so you don't get extra diesel everywhere. A couple of flat blade screwdrivers, long nose pliers, a couple of sockets and ratchets, trim removing clip, and a couple of Allen keys for the factory fuel filter. And if you need a little flat blade, just to dislodge the electrical connectors. So just like that, the engine bay's clean. Like you've seen, I've just used a bit of solvent parts cleaner and compressed air. If you are doing that, just be cautious. Compressed air, make sure you've got safety glasses on. Or alternatively, you could use an engine bay degreaser and water. Didn't want to do that in the workshop. So now the area is clean, let's crack on, open those fuel filters up. Okay, one thing I didn't mention is the bottle I'm going to use to bleed the fuel system. It's the appropriate tool for only the V8 Land Cruisers, and that's this guy right here. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is thumb and forefinger. I'm going to disconnect the pressure differential sensor. That's the black connector on the top here. Then we're going to get our Allen key and undo the 3 Allen keys. Okay, so there's a couple of ways you can undo the Allen keys. Obviously it's a 5mm. Now you need to drop this in down here because we can't swing this guy around here. Now tip, you want to make sure if you've got a long Allen key, you've got a positive here, and obviously there's aftermarket wiring here, so you want to be very careful that you're not going to earth out from the fuel filter back to a positive feed. So be very careful with that. Now a tip with the Allen key like this, a long one, what you can do is put this guy on here and then use the 10mm spanner. That was nice and tight. And then you can crack. And as you can see, it's a steel bolt going into the bottom of the fuel housing. Just going to put that aside. Now, the other option, what you can do, if you've got an Allen key socket on an extension, you can put it on top like so, and start undoing it this way. But once again, be careful, this guy, positive, you don't drop it down and earth it out. So that's one thing to watch out for and options to undo it. Now, I'd also want to mention as well, if it has been off-road and is dirty, it's common we see these little Allen keys either stripped threads in the bottom or the top of the heads are stripped out. They're an M6 thread. Just make sure the Allen key's seated right down so you don't round it off. As you can see, I've got a fair bit of leverage on here and you can hear how tight it was. And there's a little tip that I like to do when I reinstall it, and that's always putting a little bit of grease on the threads. They're not going to rattle loose. It's just going to make it much easier so the threads don't bind or strip on removal next time. And just like that, the fuel head, the top of it, can come up. Okay, so quick tip, when you're removing the factory fuel filter and you haven't dislodged that grey connector, long nose pliers, they're your best friend. straight under, through the wheel arch, through here, pinch the little detents together, pop the connector up from here, you can just push it up and away you go. Don't yank on it from the top. You could use a trim removal tool. It's pretty tight on there. I recommend pliers from underneath. Just gonna remove any little bits of dirt or contaminant in there, and as you can see, there's fine dirt particles there. And you wanna make sure when you seal this back onto the new filter when we install it, that you don't have any debris, a little grain of sand here with this seal sitting lower down here. If it sucks air, you'll find the first giveaway is it'll run all day. It's just very hard to start in the morning. Once you prime it up and start it, away you go, it'll run all day. That's a common symptom of air induced into the fuel system when it's turned off and it's hard to start. Okay, so now you're literally going to just pick up the fuel filter like so. Just here, these little tabs make it really easy to pick up. And I'm trying to do this with minimal tools or minimal stuff as possible, because remember, sometimes you may need to do this on the side of the road. So it's always good to be prepared and know the tools you've got to do or need to do the job if that scenario happens. Roadside. Next, you've just got the seal. Pretty straightforward, you don't need to do anything with that. One thing I would say, keep it aside clean and tidy, just in case you drop the new one or you do something with it or it's not in the packaging. Now, what I like to do is lift the whole fuel bowl out of the vehicle. And to do so, you need to tilt on a little bit of an angle. And the reason is this is the factory cock valve. And as you can see, it's mounted down quite low. When you've got a secondary battery in place, you can't get to that, because I'll show you why. Ready? That you have to cock it on an angle like that, lower it down. The 3 holes, it can only go, it's a triangle. You can't rotate it wherever you want. Now that the drain valve is directly down here, you're never going to get to that on the roadside. So you can't even see what's inside of the fuel filter. The only way you can do that is like we've just done then, and open it up and have a look. So to get all the debris or any gunk out of the bottom, it's going to be very hard to get to. And when we fitted the dual battery kit to this vehicle, I pre-released this grey connector. If you look down here, you'll see there's little wiring harness connectors, and you'll see right down there, there's a hole that's meant to lodge into. I actually don't refit it, and the reason is as you can see, I could just pull that straight back up like that. If I was roadside, stuck in the middle of nowhere, I could literally have tipped that out if this had a whole load of bad fuel in it, pop it back down without yanking the wiring off, because what people do is they break the sensor, dislodge the pins out of the bottom, and you end up with a light on the dash. So as you can see here, the connectors get a fair bit of, it's got fine beach sand, dust and all that sort of stuff. You need to press down on this little tab here, the locking tab, so the groove drops out, and then you pull the connectors apart. Don't pull on them too hard, because you'll see here they're only fine little wires, and you'll back out the wires out of the terminals. So make sure that you get this clip here, thumb and forefinger, and you dislodge the connector before you pull on it. Sometimes you may need to, sit there and jiggle it and clean it and try and get the dust and dirt off of it, but definitely don't yank on it. But you'll see all the debris in the connector, and also right up all the way on this. So that's what's jammed it and made it hard to get apart. So just be careful with it. Now we can lift that right out of the vehicle. And what I'm going to do is, the factory fuel filter is sitting there draining for a bit. I like to tip the whole complete bowl and see the debris that's in there. And you can swirl it around. There's not much dirt in there. Sometimes it might look like there's a lot of settlement, but actually what you've got to be careful of is rust. If it's had water in there for a long time, even though these bowls do have a coating on them, they can rust out and get quite etched into the bottom of them. I'd recommend replacing the bowl, and like I said as well, make sure this hasn't been cracked or damaged, and the connector's clean and dry when you put it back on. A tip with this, I like to use some solvent or clean fuel, wash it all out. If you're in a workshop, compressed air, crystal clean before it goes back in the vehicle. Okay, so what does this connector do? This connector here goes to the light on the dash for the water separation filter. And if you look in here and you hear this noise, That there is a little float. When water sits in the bottom of this bowl, it raises this up, activates the sensor. This goes to the dashboard, tells you got water in your fuel. The black sensor on the top, that one there is your pressure differential, and that is when there's a restriction in the factory fuel filter of the amount of fuel that's allowed to come into the filter versus out of the filter. And it's detecting a pressure drop, and when this filter is blocked and causing a restriction, or there's a restriction in the fuel system, it brings a light on the dash. So we've got our factory fuel filter, pop them in there, new seal. Like I said, old seal. You can see there, the old one looks a little bit more crushed and worn. This guy here, when you drop it in, it's going to be a little bit more prouder. And like I mentioned, a little bit of grease on these threads, so when you screw them in, they stay in there nice and tight. Now, I might mention as well what is common when something has gone wrong and you've had a problem. These are seized in there, the heads are sheared off and they've gone to a 10mm bolt, which you could put in there, I've seen that done before, is the reason why I put grease on this. Steel, Allen key into an aluminium housing, two dissimilar metals, it gets corrosion, and then the threads drag out of these holes here. You have to drill them out and put a nut and bolt. These are the threads here I was talking about. The steel bolts go into aluminium housing. If they're seized in there, you drag the threads out. These ones here, the ones that might have a nut underneath. So do yourself a favour, it's drag the threads, replace the bracket, but put grease on them. So when you screw them in, they come out next time real easy. So we just line the connector up, thumb and forefinger, make sure it's plugged together nicely. Remember the location as well. I said the cock valve here lines up to the back of the car. Make sure it just naturally drops down. Don't force it down if there's anything under the bottom of the bowl, and you should be easily able to rotate it, line up the holes, and away you go. Now also you could drop the fuel filter and the O-ring in here. I was just showing on the bench, it's much easier to see. Something you'll notice here as well, I'm literally just my hand on the top of the ratchet. You don't see me swinging on the end here or using a powerful impact gun. That's usually what damages small threads on bolts. So lastly, we're just going to reconnect the pressure differential sensor here. So to bleed the fuel system, we're going to take off the supply hose, and you'll see here, Toyota have given us thumb and forefinger clamps. This one runs down here. Follow the right hose. As you can see, I'm moving it there, and if you can see that down here, thumb and forefinger, and I'm just going to rotate the hose, twist it, then pull it off. I'll lift the hose up and we'll put our bottle here and we'll bleed it up. Okay, so now I'm just going to put the hose in there, got the bottle, and this is where it's going to take a fair bit. You're going to see, you can see in there, you'll see a little bit of fuel is going to come through to start with, then it's just going to go real foamy. The primer here that's coming from the fuel tank started a little bit firm and then it's just gone completely soft. So you can see there's the diesel. Now that's the diesel in the line to the factory filter, and you're going to see it go completely foamy in a minute. That's when it hits the air pocket of the new filter, feeding the primary back over to this. The fuel bowl, it's nice and golden. Fuel's come up from the fuel tank, filled the bottom of the filter up, and now it's fed our factory fuel filter, and we're about ready to reconnect the hose we had off earlier. We've got no major leaks or anything like that. Last couple of pumps, we got all the air out of the system. It's a fair bit of diesel. If you worry about your fuel economy, maybe put it back in your tank. So what I'm doing here is I'm inspecting the end of the fuel hose. Usually what happens on a diesel is you get tiny little frays around here, and you only need a little bit of air to suck down the side of the diesel line, and then it's just going to cause you a whole lot of grief. So have a good inspection of the fuel hoses, and like I said, our air fire hose clamps create a full seal around the hoses. One thing we see, if this is the wrong size hose on the wrong metal pipe, it should push on the pipe and be quite firm, and the clamp does the last bit of sealing. If you're pushing the hose on and it's just loose and the clamp's doing all the work, you've actually got something wrong in the fuel kit you've got in your vehicle. And that's one thing I would always say, make sure you've got a quality fuel kit, because the kit's only as good as the kit is and as good as it's fitted, as well as maintained. So now we've connected the hose up, give this the last couple of pumps, you'll feel it get really firm like that. Now we're ready to start the vehicle up, check it for leaks, and ideally wash it down. As you saw in the video, a little bit of diesel residue went down there. You don't want that on the driveway, and rubber bushes and diesel. If you have got a leak, big thing, diesel eats rubber, especially suspension bushes, and it just swells them. So if you've got a leak, fix it. Now let's start this beast up. So we've just started it up, as you heard, and I'm just going to give this a light, couple of pumps, just so if there is any last little bits of air pockets in there, it's good to go. Job done, fuel filter's changed. Now to reset that fuel light on the dash. Okay, so the two fuel lights on the dash, top right there, the ones in amber, what they represent is one is the pressure differential and the other is water in the fuel. The pressure one, the black sensor, if that comes on, even if you change the fuel filters, you need to reset it. Let's show you how to do that if that does come on. Black sensor on top of the factory fuel filter, disconnect it, go back into the cab, and we're going to turn the ignition on. The two lights, the fuel light, the water bowl, and the pressure differential sensor, the black one that we're resetting, they're going to come on, and then they've gone off. What we're going to do now is we're going to reconnect that black sensor. Easy as. Now we're going to turn the ignition back off, then turn it back on, and the light should be off. Just like that, you've reset the fuel light. All right, fuel filter's changed out, last checks, wash down, road test, job done, fuel system's ready for that next trip. Until then, I'll see you in the next video or out on the tracks.